Good morning, students. Welcome back to my 13th lecture. That is the module 5 of your C701 Environmental Engineering. Now, basically, we are discussing about that topic, the water treatment, in the last 12th lecture. So, we'll be continuing in this 13th lecture, that water treatment process itself. Last class, if you want to recapitulate the earlier lectures, what you have seen, the schematic diagrams, that is the flowchart of the treatment process that we have seen separately for the surface water treatment and the groundwater sources. That means water collected from the two sources, surface water and groundwater, and their treatment process that we have seen in schematic diagram or in flowchart. We have just the preliminary treatment, the screening process we have discussed in the closing lecture, that is the 12th lecture. In continuation of the water treatment today, we'll discuss the aeration. That is the next process of the screening. Now, after the aeration, we'll discuss the sedimentation, plain sedimentation, then the coagulation flocculation process. Then, after coagulation flocculation process, the filtration will be done. Then finally the disinfection will be done. Before filtration, the water softening, there is also a process of water softening process. And finally we'll go for the disinfection, that is the chlorine dosing. So this is overall the water treatment process of the different units. So now I will discuss right now in my 13th lecture class the aeration. Now what is aeration? Aeration means you are supplying the air into the water. That means a close contact between the air and the water takes place. This is called the aeration. So where it is a unit where it brings water and air in close contact, that is the fundamental thing. What is the aim of this aeration? What is the objective of this aeration? The objective of this aeration is for removal of iron and manganese. This is one of the metal we are removing because the oxide form, they are precipitated, so thereby removing. So iron and manganese are removed in this process. That is fundamental thing. And apart from that, the dissolved gases and the volatile organic compound, that is the VOC, also we are removing by this process. So this is the thing. So this is the basic objective of the aeration process. Okay. Now what I am trying to say is that aeration, basically this treatment after the screening basically holds good when we extract the water from the groundwater. Why? Because this groundwater, the source of groundwater is basically containing the iron and manganese compared to the surface water. Not only that, the dissolved gases are mainly in the groundwater. So the aeration specially holds good for the water from the ground, and it may not be used for the surface water sources. That is the fundamental things I must highlight to you. Now, aeration can be achieved aeration can be achieved by exposing drops or thin layers of water to the air, or by introducing the small air bubbles at the bottom and letting them rise through the water. The efficiency of aeration depends on the contact time and amount of surface contact between air and water. Okay, this is the efficiency of the aeration depends on the contact time, which is very, very important, and which is controlled primarily by the size of the water drop or air bubbles. Now, aeration effects, as I told you, that the dissolved gases such as radon, carbon dioxide can be removed by this aeration process. Some taste and odor problems like methane, hydrogen sulfide, due to methane and hydrogen sulfide, can be removed by this aeration. Volatile organic compounds like MTB or industrial solvents can be removed by the aeration. And more importantly, the iron and manganese can be precipitated, as because we are providing the oxygen. Aeration means we are providing the oxygen, air, so it is oxidized and precipitated. The iron oxide and manganese oxide are precipitated and settle down. And aeration raises the pH of the water also. But it is not effective. It is not effective in removal of other materials than iron and manganese. And it is not also effective for removing the pathogenic organisms like bacteria, viruses, and also the turbidity and the suspended materials. So aeration removes what? That I have specifically told you. Okay. The treatment mechanism, this pictorial diagram shows the treatment mechanism of the aeration. Now, how the raw water contains, you see, the different symbols have been used in the pictorial diagram: carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, iron. So you see the second condition, as first raw water condition, all the carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, iron, you can see. But when air passes through water, you see some carbon dioxide now and hydrogen sulfide, they are very close to each other. Not only that, the iron takes precipitated. Iron starts precipitated when the air passes in water. And in the third picture, we can see the aerated water. You see, all iron has been precipitated and iron is removed. Hydrogen sulfide gas is removed. So this is the thing, the process, how the mechanism with aeration. In pictorial diagram, I am showing you. Now, what is scrubbing action? It is the turbulence when the water and air mix together. So it denotes the turbulence of mixing of water and air. Now, it removes taste and odors, causing gases and VOCs, which are responsible for taste and odors, that are removed through aeration. And this oxidation caused by the action of dissolved oxygen, that we know, because we are pushing the aeration, means we are pushing the oxygen into the system, and the impurities iron and manganese or organic carbon becomes oxidized and precipitated, and they can be removed by filtration process. Separation, that is the filtration process. So theory, this is the system of aeration. Now the aeration is being done some aerators, that is the mechanical device aerators. Now here I will describe the different types of aerators to give you some acquaintance with some aerators. That is the gravity aerators are there. Gravity aerators means water is allowed to fall by gravity on a series of steps, like steps, such that a large area of water is exposed to atmosphere, sometimes added by turbulence. I can show you the photographs, then you can understand. You see the bottommost left corner, the cascade aerator, that is the gravity fall we are observing by steps. So this is the thing, figure I am showing you. So this is also called the gravity aerators as well as the cascades. So this is one type of gravity fall system, where the water is allowed to fall by gravity on a series of steps. Next, fountain spray aerators. What is that? That are special fixed nozzles or a pipe grid to produce a spray of fine droplets into the surrounding air. How? I am showing you the figure. That is the fountain spray aerator. This is called the fountain spray nozzle aerator. Just beside the cascade aerator, it is seen. It is a pipe nozzle system spraying water into air. That means it is basically the spray of fine droplets into surrounding air. What is the basic purpose of aeration? To come close in contact between the air and water. Now the tray aerators are also there, consist of a series of trays equipped with slats or perforated or wire-mesh bottoms. So water is distributed over the trays and allowed to fall from each tray onto the collection basin at the base. Let us see the figure of the tray aerators. because from the top to bottom basin, it is fallen to the trays. So the tray aerators, you see the tray aerators, that is the topmost right one. The figure shows like these things. Okay, fine. Then we'll discuss the pack tower or air strippers. What is that? Now water is pumped into top of the tower because it is a altitude. So the pumped water is pumped into the top of the tower, packed with inert material like plastic and ceramics, and centrifugal blowers are used to introduce air counter current through the bottom of the tower. Now diffused aerator. This is release fine air bubbles through perforated pipes. You see, I am showing you the diffused aerators, the picture. So this is the diffused aerator, the left one topmost, air diffusion aerator. Okay. So we are quite acquainted with some terminology of different aerators, that is the mechanical system, and last is the mechanical aerators that is mostly used, that is motor driven impellers along the mixing paddles or used paddles may be either submerged or at the surface, and these are mostly used in the water treatment plant. Mostly the mechanical aerators are being seen. Okay, so this is the different aerators I have discussed. Now these are the photographs of the aerators which we have discussed, that is the photographs at the site, and there are the limitations of the aeration that we must see. Let us see what is the limitations, because aeration is an energy intensive treatment method. That is the limitation and can result in overuse of energy, because it is electric power. Motor is operated for aeration purpose, so definitely there is a consumption of electric power. So definitely it is a extensive overuse of the energy, and temperature significantly affects the efficiency of the air stripping process. May not be suitable for cold climate. In colder region, cold climate, this aeration process is not effectively being worked. Aeration typically raises the dissolved oxygen content in water that you have seen for the oxidation case, but too much oxygen in the water leads the aeration. There is a rate of aeration. If overdosage of aeration causes variety of problem. What variety of problem? Because water becomes super saturated due to overdosage of aeration, which causes corrosion because gradual decomposition of the metal surface. So this will cause the corrosion. So we have to make the aeration in a controlled way of aeration, not at a particular rate the aeration can be done. So it should be noted that the overrated aeration should be avoided, because it will create some other problem if it is getting super saturated, because aeration is nothing but it is increasing the dissolved oxygen. So if there are elevated levels of dissolved iron and manganese in the water, the aeration process can cause rust and other solids to form. Aeration of water can promote algal growth in the water and can clog the filters. Because with the aeration, there is a negative advantage also. What is that? The algal growth will be effective in clogging the filter. So this is the thing. These are the disadvantages of the aeration process that we must have seen. Now we'll aeration. As I have told you, the next process I am going into the sedimentation process. This is primary process. Now we are entering into the primary treatment of water process, that is the sedimentation process. Now sedimentations, settling, clarification. So these are the process that we will discuss in this unit. It is a process of separation to settle out the suspended materials like clay, like silt, like organic matter, and associated impurities which settle under the effect of gravity. So it is a physical process, because we are not adding any chemical. So no chemical activity, no chemical process is being done. Simply by action of gravity, it settles under the tank. So it is sedimentation process is a physical process. And the suspended materials may be the particles originally present in the source water, like clay silt, or in terms of rock through coagulation flocculation process, or maybe biomass also settling in the biological reactor that we have seen the settling. So settling may be done not only the sedimentation process in the primary process, but in the secondary process also in biological treatment, where you will see the sludge, that is the biomass, is settled. So that will see next. But now I will discuss the sedimentation process, that means the physical sedimentation process. The tank may be the rectangular or maybe the circular. Now, what I will discuss the first of all, uh, let me discuss the plain sedimentation technology. That is the let me factors affecting the sedimentation. As we know, in sedimentation process, the particles settle under gravity. So, what are the factors we have to take care? Shape, that is the diameter of the particles. Size, because in fluid mechanics or hydraulics, you have you are already aware of the very famous law, that is the Stokes law. That will see, that will be applied here also. That laminar flow, turbulent flow will discussed, where the Stokes law will be valid for laminar flow, where the Reynolds number less than 1, that will be discussed very soon. So we can see the sedimentation process. The diameter has a very role. So more the diameter, more particles will be settled. Less the diameter, less particle will be settled. So shape and size of the particle matter plays a factor. Now density of the particle matter and the nature of the particle. Now, since the sedimentation is occurring in fluid, so a viscosity is a property of fluid, that will be that is a factors which is affecting the sedimentation. Temperature, of course, because on the temperature viscosity depends. So definitely temperature also a guiding factor in process of the sedimentation. And the surface overflow rate. Surface overflow rate means it is calculated on the vertical settlement of the particles, that we will see. Velocity of flow, that means the horizontal velocity at which in the sedimentation basin the water is entering, that is the velocity of flow, that is horizontal velocity. Surface overflow rate is the vertical one, and the flow of velocity is the horizontal velocity. Two velocities are to different directions, that you must understand. Then the flocculation, because the tendency of the particles to make a flock and then settle. Inlet and outlet arrangements entering into the system, and after the settlement it is going to the outlet. So inlet and outlet arrangement has to be taken care. Detention period, very important. The most important parameter is the detention period of the sedimentation tank. Detention period means the time, how much during which that liquid, that water will detain in the tank. That means if it is V is the volume of the tank, Q is the flow of the tank. So V by Q simply is the detention period. Mathematically, I can tell you V by Q, volume by quantity flow, which is entering into the tank, is called the detention period, because these are time required to fill the tank, to detain the tank. So that's why it is named as the detention period. Effective depth of settling zone, that is the depth of water. We'll discuss this issue. So these are the factors, these are the governing factors. Okay. Now, fine. I will discuss these are the various photographs. I am just giving these things. Only thing I am just going to deliver you the effective things which will be in your covered in your syllabus. Fine. Sedimentation tank, as we are discussing for the water treatment design, and you know that design is basically on certain numerical problems. Whenever you are going for systematic design of the system, that means you are solving some problems in design. So will serially solve some problems on the sedimentation tank. Then the design, how to design means how to determine the size of the tank. If it is a rectangle, then what is the length and breadth? If it is circle, then what is the diameter? Then sometimes it might happen to find out the, say, what is the settlement velocity, or what is the overloading load. So these types of design parameter you have to find out in your design. So we'll discuss some problems, numerical problems, which will much more clarify the portion of the design of the sedimentation tank, that is the primary treatment of the water treatment. So very beginning, I am just going to deliver the concept of the simple problem of the Stokes law. Now the question given, terminal settling velocity you have to find out. That is, the settling velocity means Vs you have to find out. Of course, as I've told you, the velocity, settlement velocity depends on the temperature. So definitely at 15 degrees centigrade, it is asked for to calculate the settling velocity of spherical, of what particle is nature of the particle, is it is a silicon particle, spherical silicon particle with specific gravity 2.4 it is given, and the average diameter of the particle in case 1 it is given as 0.05 and case B it is given as 1 millimeter. So in both cases you have to find out the settling velocity, given that rho of G, that is specific gravity of G, is given as density of density of water is given as 999 kg per meter cube, and the viscosity of the water is given as 0.00113 Newton second per meter square at 15 degrees centigrade. So first we'll apply the Stokes law. What is the Stokes law? Vs equal to rho G by 18 into SS minus 1 by mu into D square. And that is the fundamental law of the fluid mechanics, nothing separate with the environmental engineering. So that basic Stokes law we all know regarding that fluid mechanics. So what is the rho? Rho is given as 999. What is G? 9.81. Because it is a MK system, we are going to put the values. Now SS is given 2.4 and mu is given, this kinetic viscosity is given 0.00113. And finally D square, D means 0.05. So 0.05 millimeter means 0.05 into 10 to the power minus 5. A 5 into 10 to the power minus 5 meter. So that whole square given 0.00169 meter per second. Now we have calculated the velocity based on the Stokes law. But we must know that this Stokes law is valid for the Reynolds number when if it is less than 1, because Stokes law is valid for the laminar flow, not for the turbulent flow. So that we have to ascertain whether we have applied the Stokes law. That means we have to ascertain that it is a laminar flow. So how do you ensure that it is a laminar flow? You have to find out the Reynolds number, and if the Reynolds number is found less than 1, then you can conclude, so this is a rational flow, a laminar flow. Then your application of Stokes law is valid. So that you have to check after applying the Stokes law. So what is the formula of the Reynolds number? Reynolds number formula is the rho Vd by nu. All these things parameter is known, rho is known, V we have just calculated, Reynolds number we have calculated by Stokes law just now 0.00169, D is given, mu is given, so it is found 0.074. Now it is Reynolds number is found 0.074 is less than 1. That means what we can conclude? So Stokes law is applicable. So whatever the answer we have found out applying the Stokes law, absolutely it is the correct answer, because it is the laminar flow that we have checked, because Reynolds number is less than 1 and the value is 0.00169 meter per second for the part 1 question, where the diameter of the particle is given 0.05 millimeter. Second solution. Let us see when the particle diameter is 1 millimeter. So instead of 0.05 into 10 to the minus 5, here we have changed 0.001 whole square, and it is found 0.674 meter per second. Now you check for Reynolds number. The fun thing is that it is found 596. So RE is greater than 1. So Stokes law is no longer valid because it is not laminar flow, it is the turbulent flow because Reynolds number is greater than 1. So what to do? That means Vs 0.674 meter per second will not be the answer of the second part of the question. Then what to do? How to calculate the Vs? That I am going to tell. This Reynolds number, which is being calculated as 596, which is 100% valid to calculate the drag coefficient for the transition flow. And what is the value of the transition flow drag coefficient? That is 24 by Re plus 3 by Re square root plus 0.34, and that Re which has been calculated with the velocity of the Stokes law, that is the 0.674, that will be valid for finding out the drag coefficient in the transition flow. Once the drag coefficient of the transition flow you have found out, considering that Reynolds number 596, then you calculate the Vs corresponding to the transition flow. That is, the formula is 4 by 3 GPS minus PW. As you can see from my screen, 3 CD rho WD, that value is 0.9191 meter per second. You see the huge difference. First we have calculated 0.674 meter per second using the Stokes law, but actual velocity, settling velocity is 0.9191 meter per second. So huge difference is seen. The correct answer is 0.191 meter per second, because here we have to consider the transition flow, not the laminar flow. Fine. So this is a preliminary problem, very basic problem. I am going to highlight how to determine the settling velocity using the Stokes law. If it is found that Reynolds number less than 1 is laminar flow. Otherwise, if it is a transition flow, then how to find out the Vs? I am just giving you the example. Again, another problem, let me discuss that the terminal settling velocity of water at temperature 15 degrees centigrade, that spherical silicon particles, same nature, with specific gravity 2.4, average diameter of 0.051. Same type of problem, same type of problem. Again, let me discuss so that you will much more understand this type of problem, and you will be ready to solve any problem comes from this theory. So first you estimate the Reynolds number, rho VdV. Here the one thing it is given that rho VdV by nu. So what is 0.91, 0.191, 0.191? It is given in that earlier problem. So rho Vd by nu, it is estimate as 168.66, and so it is greater than 1. Reynolds number is greater than 1, so you have to calculate the CD, that is the drag coefficient, applying the formula 24 by Re plus 3 by square root of Re plus 0.34, and you have to find out the CD value. Then you again put that CD value for that Vs value, and you calculate 0.16 meter per second. So this is the thing, this is the same theory I am going to tell. You have to calculate, you have to take care of this problem in similar nature. A different type of problem now, I have just come with a different problem in front of you. So let us discuss the different problem, very interesting problem. An ideal horizontal flow settling velocity, that depth of the tank is given, that is 3 meters. And the rectangular tank, it is surface area, that is the L into B, it is also given 500 square meter. That means volume is given, because depth is given, area is given. Now the water flow, that is the Q at the rate of 8,000 meter cube per day, that is also given in the question. At water temperature 20 degrees centigrade, mu is given, rho is given. Assuming Stokes law, nothing to be checked. Reynolds numbers you don't have to check, because there it is given that the Stokes law you assume. So without goes anything, you can apply the Stokes law, and it is said in the question. Determine the percentage of the spherical sand particle that could be removed. So what percentage of sand particles can be removed? Maybe this is a problem that 100% sand particles cannot be removed. because this is not working in a 100% efficiency. So certain percentage of the sand particles, which percentage of sand particles will be removed, that is a design criteria. That is a very, very important phenomena that you as a engineer you must find out. In this type of question, as it is given that the Stokes law you can apply, so first you find out the Vs applying the Stokes law. The value always is given, G is given, rho is given, mu is given, SS is given, and D is given, particle diameter obviously is given. So you have found out the Vs is 9 into 10 to the power minus 5 meter per second. Actually, this is the settlement velocity which is actually being happening in the Stokes law. Now, if the sedimentation tank can work as 100% efficiency, that means if all the particles, let us consider, settled, this is called the critical settling velocity. So what is the critical settling velocity? When it works at 100% efficiency and all that particles will settle in the tank, that is the critical settling velocity, and that critical settling velocity will be obtained by depth of the tank divided by the detention time. Why? Because V is nothing but the distance divided by time. Again I repeat, V is nothing but the physics law. What physics law gives us the theory? D is nothing but that is distance, velocity. Velocity is given by distance divided by time. So distance means the depth of the tank, because settling occurs in the depth, vertical, so depth of the tank, and the distance divided by time. Time means detention time. There whole the particle will settle, that is the detention time. So we have to finding the detention time. How to finding the detention time? That is the volume of the tank by water flow rate. That I have very beginning told you about the detention time, because how much time the tank detain the water. So it is total volume of the tank which is given in the question, 500 into 3 divided by the water flow rate, that is Q, because V meter cube divided by Q meter cube per time. So time will go to the numerator, and ultimately detention time is nothing by volume by discharge, volume by discharge, volume by discharge. Again and again, thrice I am telling you. It should be remembered in your mind. What is the detention time? It is nothing but the volume by discharge, volume by discharge, volume by discharge. Very important. That's why thrice I am telling you. So volume is 500 into 3, and time is and discharge is 8,000. You will get the 4.5 hours after converting the day multiplied to 24. You'll arrive the settling time. That means the detention time is 4.5 hours. And this detention time will help you to calculate the critical settling velocity. That is nothing but the depth of the tank, which is given in 3, divided by the 4.5 hours. If you convert into the second, so 4.5 into 360. So critical settling velocity is coming 18.5 into 10 to the minus 5 per second. So what is the percentage of spherical sand particles? Percentage of spherical sand particles, that would be percentage of spherical sand particles. So removal efficiency is actually, if the all particles are removed, then the settling velocity is 18.5. But definitely here as per the law, Stokes law, we have found out settling velocity is 9 into 10 to the minus 5 meter per second. So what we can conclude? We can conclude a percentage of the particles are settled, all particles are not settled, because two velocity are not equal, so all particles are not settled. In critical settling velocity means 100% efficiency is working. So what is the percentage of efficiency? Is 9 into 10 to the minus 5, that is which is obtained by the Stokes law, and the critical settling velocity which you have obtained by dividing the depth by the detention time, that is 18.5 into 10 to the minus 5. So you will get the removal efficiency 48.6%. So the removal efficiency working in this case in the sedimentation tank is 49%. This is the thing. So again, I am telling that in next lecture, I will close it a day, because next lecture, in the 14th lecture, I will continue the sedimentation tank, because it's a very, very important features in the design of water treatment plant, and the sedimentation tank is a very vital area which we need to focus. So there will be another various problems are coming in the semester exam. We will definitely discuss various problems associated with the design of the sedimentation tank in the next lecture also. That is in my 14 lectures. So I can close it a day with discussing some 2-3 problems of the sedimentation tanks and some giving preliminary idea on the aeration and the sedimentation process. I will post these lectures. I will upload these lectures after the discussion to the Google Classroom. I will request all students kindly go through my lectures and numericals, whatever the 2-3 problems we have solved today. And live lectures definitely will be meeting for one-to-one interaction for any further clarification. If one, definitely will be continuing in the next, will be meeting in the next lecture very soon. That is the 14th number lecture in continuation of this sedimentation tank, as because this is a very important area we must focus in the water treatment system. So thank you. I am closing it today. Have a nice day.